Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the University of Manchester Middle East Centre's online session titled Learning by Doing is Our Mantra, and this is what our MBA program is all about by Malcolm Smith. A bit more about our speaker today. Malcolm Smith is an alumnus of Alliance Manchester Business School, part of the University of Manchester, and has lectured on a number of programs over the last 9 years. His specialties are venture capital, private equity, selling strategy and negotiation skills. He has a degree in applied physics and is a member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. He spent 25 years in the food sector. His role over the last 12 years in this industry was that of CEO of large international enterprises. And recently he has become involved with the venture capital sector and has acted as CEO, chairman, and most recently in non-executive directorship roles in the internet space. So thank you very much for being here, Malcolm, and over to you.
Well, thanks very much indeed for that very swift intro, William. This is really all about you, the listeners today, and it's for you in these difficult times. And I guess you're all wondering, what am I going to do in terms of my education and where the best place to go and what's the choice I want to make? And you've got to make the choice that's best for yourself. We at the MBS, we recognize that this is not an easy time for anyone. However, you know what? If it was easy, we'd all be doing it. So at the end of the day, we've just got to take what we've got and make the best we can. And there's no point in crying about it. It is not ideal what's going on. However, we've poured resources into the situation at the MBS, and I have to say I'm involved in the virtual programs all over the program within the MBA, and we sit down and talk to each other about our lessons that we've learned, and we try and do our best to bring new technologies to the fore. And the university just bought a very large package of seats, if you like, from Zoom, and we're starting to use Zoom all around the world now, which is a very efficient program for the dissemination of information and allows you to have something close to the face-to-face experience. And funny enough, the feedback I'm getting from this semester, when we've just been really experimenting with them, with this kind of means of communicating, has been very good. It's all about engagement, and we're trying very hard to engage you. So what's an MBA to MBS all about? Well, we've got our mantra, learning by doing. I'm a great believer in that. I've spent my life doing things. And in fact, I spent most of my life in corporate world working with entrepreneurs. I've never worked for a large corporate. We turned over 1.5 billion, but we weren't what you would call a normal type of corporate. And frankly, I don't think I could have made it in that environment. I like working with entrepreneurs, and I like working in challenging situations. And I've learned a lot by doing, and of course, I've gained a lot of experience. And one of the things that one of my missions, I guess, is to pass on my experience to the next generation, so that you can actually learn from the mistakes myself and my friends and colleagues who are involved in our programs have made, to ensure that you know what not to do. You'll make your own mistakes, but you know, as long as you make mistakes within a box, it doesn't matter. If you make mistakes with an open end, whoa, that's a different situation altogether, and that's when people get hurt, which is what the MBA program is all about. First of all, why should you do it in an MBS? Well, that's a decision you've got to make for yourselves. Everybody's got their own views on what's good for them and what's not good for them, and we have our own way of doing things. And if it's not what you want to do, then of course you have every right to not come to us and go somewhere else. However, we kind of like what we do, and our students like what we do as well. We give you the chance to get it wrong where it doesn't hurt in the classroom. You know, if you make a mistake in the classroom and you think you look like an idiot, so what? You know, it doesn't hurt anybody. And I've learned more by my mistakes than anything else in my life. We take real world examples from actual real cases that we've been involved in, myself and my colleagues on these two courses. They're all unique to MBS. They're not something you could read in a book or buy on some kind of case center, because they're ours. We don't share them with anyone. We don't sell them to anybody. They're only for our students. They're unique for you. I guess as an educator, my ultimate objective is to inspire you to learn. I can't teach you everything you need to know in a short period of time, but I can teach you the basics and then inspire you to learn the clever stuff and then start working. The essence of an MBA program is to allow you to achieve better outcomes more of the time, specifically for yourself, of course, but also for your company that you work for. And of course, don't forget your family, which is the most important thing in the world. So how do we approach your education? You know, we take it seriously. Obviously, you pay a lot of money to come on our program, and we've got to deliver value. If we don't deliver value, then we don't deserve your business. And I see a lot of the people on your courses you'll deal with see you as actually clients. You know, you're not just somebody who just happens to be new since we've got to teach, and that's not the way we work at MBS. We're actually teaching you how to make things happen in the real world. I'm going to give you try and give you a flavour, at least in a very short period of time, about the two courses I know best. They are negotiation skills and venture capital and private equity. I got involved with the university, I guess, first time about 13 or 14 years ago with venture capital. And then I was asked to write something for the global program on selling skills and negotiation. And we've just morphed it into negotiation skills now because that's a big subject all on its own. So I'll talk a little bit about these two electives. They are electives. They're not part of the core program. There's something you can take if you wish, and there's quite a plethora of electives covering a whole range of subject which you might be interested in. And the beauty of the MBA is it gives you the opportunity to get a flavour for it, maybe subject you don't understand or not dealt with in the past and want to learn more about. And of course, the purpose of the MBA is to learn things you don't know much about in order to improve your outcomes later on. It's all about outcomes. You're making a huge investment, you've got to get a return. So I call this program, this is a mantra of mine. The negotiations are the art of letting them have your way. What does that mean? Well, you've got to get the counterparty. By the way, never call someone you negotiate with an opponent. Never call them an opponent, for goodness sake. They're not an opponent. They're an opportunity to make some money. Now, if you're a boxer, they're an opponent. That's a different kettle of fish. This is business. They are a counterparty. This statement was made in the 16th century by an Italian diplomat, and it's as true now as it was then. If you can get the counterparty to see what you're doing is in their interests, then you're going to get engagement. It will happen. It will be implemented very efficiently, and you'll both make loads of money. So normally I ask the class when I start a class, I mean, this is a kind of one of the few slides I use in my first few days in the class. I always say, what do you think the purpose of this program is, and why are you coming on the program? Now, clearly with this number of people, I can't ask that and expect in a reasonable time to get some kind of response and an engagement going. But I always write down before I start a program the strategic objective of that program. You know, not the sort of detailed stuff. We all get too bogged down in detail in our lives. I like to think simple. As Picasso said, you know, it took me 4 years to learn how to paint like Raphael, and it took me the rest of my life to learn how to paint like a child, which is a kind of interesting and rather profound statement. So our objective is to change your life, and I put it in a positive way because I just wanted to be sure that, you know, our intent is to make it better, not worse. The fact of the matter is, this is a life-changing elective. People have written to us, myself and my colleagues, many times. We've received really, really engaging emails, very inspiring emails from the people we've spoken to and taught in the past. And they've told us wonderful stories about how it's made a huge difference to the outcomes in their lives, both for the families, the children, and for themselves, and for the companies. And that's what it's all about. And to receive this affirmation is really inspiring for us as teachers, and it drives us on, and we keep on innovating the product. And we've just turned it into a virtual product, and it's innovated in a way we didn't expect it. You know, we've really learned a lot. And in fact, when we go back to face-to-face, as we will do, and who knows when that'll be, I'm not going to make any predictions on that one. This is not an astrologer's course, it's about negotiation skills. But when we do go back, we're going to take some of the messages and lessons from virtual back into face-to-face, which is not what I expected. And as always, if you endeavour to do the best you can in any given circumstance and adopt a positive attitude, it's amazing what will come out. even of what's perceived as adversity, and this is what negotiations are all about, perception. If you perceive something as adversity and a negative situation, you're going to walk into it with that mindset and learn nothing. And you're just going to replicate this horrible mantra, oh, it's no good, everything's horrible, I don't like it, we're not going to do very well, and you walk into a black hole. This course is about how to stay out of black holes and keep yourself looking at the sun. The negotiation course, this course is unique because it deals with something that leads to an outcome every time. Every negotiation has an outcome. It might be negative, it might be positive, but it is an outcome. Therefore, it is uniquely important to understand how to manage a negotiation to make sure you get the best outcome you can. We use in-house cases, which we've written ourselves. Myself and Oscar have written most of them, but not all of them. And we use real-life examples and give practical examples of things we've done. And if you ask us questions in the class, we've usually got an answer, something we've done relating to the question. We think what we teach you, and we know in some instances it led to great results. More of the time, not all of the time, because there ain't no perfection in this world. If we can get you a better result 60% of the time than you would have done, then you will do very well indeed in your life. So how does the workshop work? This is the basic overview of the workshop. We obviously, it's an online, offline course, as all courses are now on the program. So in other words, you've got topics which you read and references which we give you, and it's all very well laid out on Blackboard, which is our kind of information system. You read the topics, you look at the references, you read the book, and you get the tools to make this thing work, but you don't know how to, and then use the tools. I mean, it's no good having a hammer if you keep on hammering yourself in the thumb. You know, the objective of the exercise is to knock the nail into wood. So we show you how to use these tools efficiently and not cause yourself harm. Because you can do, if you use them badly, you can end up in a lot of trouble, I can assure you of that. We use the tools to analyze case studies, and the workshop is like an extended tutorial for 3 days. And then you learn how to make use of these new techniques, both in a situation where you can fail and you can succeed internally in the workshop, and it's fine. You negotiate both individually, mano a mano, and in teams, one team against another. And the groups negotiate and sometimes get videoed, other times get analyzed by a different means, and then we feedback the learnings. The learnings are extraordinary. And we also teach you how to prepare for a negotiation in a process-driven manner. At the end of the course, we review it and then we improve it. And this course has morphed out of all sight from where it used to be on the basis of the feedback we receive from the participants and the things we learn ourselves, obviously. But the participants are absolutely critical to the development of this program because they teach us so much. Negotiation, it's really a combination of the rational and the emotional, but in truth, there is really only one objective for any great negotiator, and that's to diminish information asymmetry. What does that mean? Okay, so I'm sitting down opposite you, I'm trying to sell you something, you're trying to buy something. You know things I don't know about your company, that's for sure. And I know a lot of things about my company you don't know. The object of a great negotiator is to find out information which is pertinent to the deal in hand in order to find ways to create value. Because two parties negotiating can often create value because they have differing interests. And we explain that in detail. You'll be surprised how many times differences of interest create huge amounts of value, which is quite the opposite of what you would expect. It's counterintuitive. Oscar and I wrote the 5-step process a few years ago on the basis of some work we did reading Shell, Bargaining for Advantage. Shell is one of the great guys in this world. There's probably 5 or 6 people, maybe 10, who we take a lot of notice of, and he's one of them. And his Bargaining for Advantage is a great book. Bit dry, but we take those bits out of it and keep the exciting stuff. And we talk about how to use a 5-step process to take any negotiation in any situation, in any company, at any time, and achieve a great outcome by using a process. I'm not going to go into the detail, obviously, because it would bore you, and also, you know, this is all about giving you a feel for it and just a pure taste for all this. The first most important thing is team selection. Often, you know, the boss always gets involved in a negotiation, And that can be an absolute blooming disaster. Let me tell you now, that can be bad news all around because, bosses tend to not have much grasp of detail. Let's be kind. They don't have the grasp of detail which is required, and they can blunder into something and think, oh, I'll get through by I'll wing it. Well, that isn't going to work. So the choice of team is a function of the counterparty. And in the Middle East, typically you'll have a slightly more senior selling team than a buying team to show respect. And that's very important. There are cultural issues as well as negotiation issues. We teach you how to prepare, and you might think, well, that's obvious, isn't it? No, it isn't. There's a very different way of preparing. This is like any other skill. There are things you need to know. For example, a joiner knows how to put wood together. And you might think it's just a question of knocking a nail in wood. No, it isn't. There's a lot more to it than that. You all know that. An electrician, for example, it's not just about connecting the wires up and everything works. There's a bit more to it than that. And this is very much like that. I'm just using practical examples. We talk about how you exchange information in a meaningful way. And by the way, you never give information away for free. That is criminal. And we talk about why. We then talk about when it's appropriate to lie in a negotiation. And of course, it's never appropriate to lie in a negotiation. This is not ethics. It's just it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Of course, ethics are important, but forget that. It doesn't work anyway. So we talk about that and how to avoid the mistakes that people make they call it exaggeration, but actually it's a lie. We talk about how to open a negotiation. That's quite important, by the way. The way you open it sets the tone. I use the phrase, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And, opening a negotiation is your first impression. If that doesn't work, you're in trouble from day one. Then we talk about how to develop a strategy. And then we talk a little bit about how to close and gain commitment. One of the hardest things in the world, if some of you are salespeople, I'm sure some of you on this webinar are salespeople, hardest thing in the world is to close. And people are frightened of closing because they sort of, oh, will he say no or will she say no? Well, you've got to do it sometime, so get on with it. So we talk about ways of closing in such a way that it doesn't antagonize the counterparty. And one of the big things we talk about across the whole span of the negotiation skill spectrum is framing. It's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. And that's framing. It's a bit more involved than you might think. And the way you talk to people and the way people talk to you impacts your perception of them and their perception of you. For example, many of you will have partners and other a significant other in your life, a wife or a husband or just a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, or of course children. Let's not go to children and grandchildren. That's a difficult area. You can't negotiate with them. Forget it. That's not on the agenda. Negotiating with children is a no-no. It's above my pay grade. Never been able to do it. However, that's what I'm carried away. I've got 3 grandchildren. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. They run me ragged. Anyway, that's another subject. So we talk about how to open the negotiation in a very positive sense, and more importantly, how to develop the strategy, because you've got to walk into a negotiation with a tactical plan to identify what the things you don't know, which might be important, and to confirm the things you do know, they're called assumptions, and make sure they are correct. I want to go back to that. That's quite important. How do you close? How do you close? For example, one of the great ways of closing is, and this is I'm going to give you an example. Happens to me all the time. We think we've done a deal, and the counterparty says, "Yeah, I'm going to go away and think about that," and then they stop there. They don't give a time of when they're going to come back, because obviously they're going to go somewhere else and try and get a better deal. That's understandable. And I immediately say, great, I'm delighted you're going to go away. Now, let's talk a little bit about the timescales here. What is your process? I mean, you obviously get it signed off, presumably, maybe the lawyers, they've got to sign it. Is that the way it works? Yeah, it does. So let's talk about when that's going to happen then. Well, it could be a while. Okay, that's fine. This offer closes in 14 days. What do you mean? Well, things change over time. I'm desperately keen to do business with you. I've given you the best deal I can possibly give you, so that can't last forever, can it? So if you come back to me within 14 days, that's fine. Now, if it's a big deal, you might talk 30 or 40 days, obviously, because there's a a lot of money at the back of it. But at the end of the day, you've got to gain a timeline, because every moment they aren't talking to you, they're talking to somebody else. And then all of a sudden options change and bang, you're back to square one. We talk a lot about that. And step 5 is something nobody does. I call it facing the dragon. You identify the things you did well, not so well, and what you need to learn for next time in, and you've got to share that information, especially if you make a mistake. And now, you might think, well, you don't like admitting mistakes. Dear me, I can't possibly admit I made a mistake because then I'm in trouble, because everybody has a blame culture, don't they? A lot of you work for large corporates. I have no doubt at all you find yourself working within a blame culture where everybody's looking to blame somebody else when something goes wrong. That's kind of childish in the ultimate extreme, because how can you possibly learn if you're not prepared to share with each other what you've done wrong? And if you're not prepared to learn from your mistakes, you will become a victim of your mistakes. You will not become a success. You will continue to fail. And we talk a lot about how to bring review processes into place without feeling threatened, because that's mission critical. Only dumb people only really dumb people don't want to know about mistakes that have been made. Really clever people want to find out the mistakes. Don't blame people. Okay, if you keep making the mistake all the time, you're going to be out of work because you're obviously stupid, right? But the fact of the matter is, if you make a mistake once, that's a lesson learned. And that's a very important lesson. And we talk a lot about that. Information asymmetry. Well, this is the kind of graph we use. I won't go into it now, but it's all about the process of information asymmetry being diminished, which is the black line, which you probably can't see because, of course, naturally the slides have become corrupted, which I'm sorry about. But having said that, we go into this and we chart the progress through the 5 steps, and we discuss the appropriate things to do at each step so that you know what to do and you're not left hanging. So when you walk into an actual negotiation, you're not worried about, well, hang on, what if I do this? What if I do that? We give you a framework within which to work. Before we go into venture capital and private equity, I think it's appropriate, if you don't mind, William, perhaps if we ask some questions, if anybody wants to ask any questions about negotiation skills now, I'm happy to answer them, and then I'll move on because I've left sufficient time to have questions at the end of each part. So has anybody got any questions about NSK? And then I'll move on to Vcpe. Over to you, William.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone has questions about the negotiation skills elective, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and I'll take a couple of them as soon as you've sent them across to us.
Great. What I think I'll do is a brief intro to Vcpe. While people are putting some questions, if they've got any on the chat box, I'm happy to answer any questions, obviously. Any questions in general about the MBA program within MBS. I've been privileged to be involved with the program for over 10 years now, and I was very fortunate in 2018 to be voted Lecturer of the Year. So basically, I've been, I guess, that MBS has been good to me over the years, and I'm trying to be good back to the business school, obviously, because I feel as if I owe it something. And carry on.
We do have one question, Malcolm, about the negotiation skills elective, and it is: does this elective complement the strategy and competition module? Would it be safe to say that it does kind of complement with that specific module on the program?
It complements every module on the program, and I'm really not exaggerating. There isn't anything that you do in business or in your life that doesn't involve a negotiation at some point. So I think it really bolts on in every sense to every element of the program. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the core elements. And in fairness, over 70%, of our students are now taking this program voluntarily, and they're very welcome. And we don't like to force people to take certain things. It's up to you. You're all grown individuals. But yes, this will dovetail very well with every single program on the course.
Fantastic, thank you. And we've just got one more very quickly. They just want to know if the elective runs every semester so that they can know if they can take it or not.
Yes, it runs every semester, and we've just recently run a third version of it. So let me be very specific, because that's a good question, actually. It's a very intelligent question, that. Because you know, it's no point in being interested in something if you haven't got the time to take it. So it's in the January semester. Then we run a July 2-month one, which is a tough ask, but it's really great fun. It's typically for smaller numbers of people. And then we also run in July to the end of the year with another 6 months. So it's got 3 options. So, and this semester, for example, we're taking not far short of 300 students on the elective just in this one semester. So, you know, we've got a fair amount of capacity. We've got 4 lecturers on the program, and you know, we've all got experience of every one of us got experience of negotiation. And I hate to say, my friend Oscar at the moment is getting better feedback than me, which is annoying me intensely. And he's a litigation lawyer, and he's a fantastic negotiator. Malcolm Holloway has just joined us. He's an amazing negotiator, works for me in venture capital. I've worked with him for years. And Judith Caesar has just taken over as the academic lead, has negotiated for years in the pharmaceutical industry. So a lot of experience, a fair amount of capacity, and you'll be welcome on the course.
Brilliant, thanks, Mike. And we'll just take one more, because I think this is quite an interesting one as well. Stephen is asking what he is planning on taking up this elective next term, and he would know, he'd like to know if he should be doing anything to prepare for it.
Are we talking January semester? Is that what he's on about? Presumably we are talking January.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Yeah, what I would say to you is this. It's a very smart move. I would watch one movie, which is Draft Day with Kevin Costner. It's about the NFL pick, and it's one of the best negotiation movies I've ever seen. It wasn't meant to be about that, but it is very interesting negotiation. I invite all of our students who come on the course to watch it. And there's a great book, which is also a good read. You'll enjoy it. It's a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Never Split the Difference. Hang on a minute. Let me have a look. If you want to take a screenshot, some of you know how to take screenshots, and my kids have shown me how to do it. That is the book. Can you see it okay, William? Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you very much.
Anybody wants to see? That's a great book. I can recommend it, and it's the one that we use a lot on the course. So that's where we're at. If you want to do something in advance, that's a good start. And there's not much more I would advise you to do, because you can confuse yourself by sort of learning yourself. Learning by doing is fine, but you've got to be taught by a specialist. Because learning by doing is best when you're actually in the company of a professional, and that's what we do. Okay, so I'll move on to Vcpe now, if I may, William. I think it's appropriate to do that. This is another and a very different kind of an elective. This is about alternative finance. Banks really aren't much use if you're a startup. Banks are very much focused on guaranteed assets. So people with a startup, there are no assets. And I'm involved both in the higher volume of business, which is in private equity. I've done a lot of work in private equity, and I also am chairman of 3 companies that are involved in the venture capital end of the market, which is smaller typically. So what do you think this is all about? Well, we've got a much more erudite purpose on this one. It's very specific. If you're an entrepreneur and want to learn how to pitch for money from venture capital or private equity, we teach you how to do that. If you work within a corporate and you have to put a capex together to get money from the board, we teach you how to do that as well. So in other words, whatever the situation where you're trying to get money for a project of one kind or another, we teach you how to craft an investment hypothesis to present to an investor so that they will look favorably upon you as an investee and give you a good chance of success in getting the monies that you wish. And that's what this course is all about. It actually teaches you also how to assess and value an opportunity, which is a priceless skill. Now, necessarily, you're not going to walk from there an expert on that, because very few people in the world are. But we're going to teach you what to look for. In other words, we're going to give you the intelligent, objective, analytical tools which allow you to make a good stab at what something's worth, whether it's a good opportunity or whether it isn't. So how are we going to do this? Because that's quite a big ask. I have to say to you, this is a difficult course in one sense. You've got to think a different way. You don't have to be a financial analyst. You don't have to be a corporate financier. You just have to have a basic understanding of the way a balance sheet works and the way a P&L account works. And frankly, in the MBA level, if you haven't got that, well, I don't know what you're doing. Because you've got to, before you're allowed onto this course, you've got to do the business accounting and finance part of your course. Because then if you've done that, you've got all the tools you need. If you've got the BAF behind you and an inquiring mind, and a mind which is able to take new ideas and espouse those ideas and think, yeah, how's that going to work for me? This is the course for you. If you want an easy course to make up the numbers in MBA, don't come on this one. That's all I'm going to say, because you'll find it a bit of a struggle. But the people who take it love it, and a lot of them have done really well because of what they've learned. And we do have a lot of students on the course. So we teach you the language of private equity because there's a kind of vocabulary around this, like every specialism has its own vocabulary, you know, jargon. I call it basically junk words. We talk about the meaning of those words and how we use them. So if you're talking to an investor and he uses the terms he's used to every day, you will be able to understand them and you'll be impressed with that because you'll know what he's on about. And most people don't. We use case studies to practice the use of the language. And we've got a load of case studies, most of which are changing regularly. But we just brought 2 fantastic new case studies on this semester, actually. This is how the course works, just so you can see the structure of the course is built around the product life cycle. And as a company grows, it moves up this line. We start off in Death Valley. I call it Death Valley because you really can't look at, you can't get access to cash if you want $500,000. It's hard work. Well, it's hard, you can do, but you've got to know what you're doing. We start off with a service company, an actual one, and we get the support of a company called Bullhound for this. They're a very well-known VC investor, a very high-end VC investor based in Manchester. And in fact, one of the partners, his father was a lecturer at the business school. So, I mean, it's fantastic, really. It's a kind of great connection. He's been very helpful to us, and they're a great company. And they've opened up the books, redacted the names, obviously, for the sake of their people they work with. But you see things you never get to see, never, ever. And this first one's a service company, unprofitable, looking for a new investor. By the way, most startups either unprofitable or burning cash like mad. I'm involved with a company. At the moment, it's up for sale. We've just had an offer, a very good offer. This company's never made any money in 4 years. It's burning £30,000 a month, now burning cash. And we've had an offer in the, not far off double numbers in millions, close to double numbers in millions. An interesting area is this. We look at how to analyze a company from the point of view of a private equity buyer, which is important. In other words, you get inside the mind of the buyer. Then the next one we're looking at is a SaaS business. Some of you may well know what SaaS is. It's software as a service. In this case, Bullhound was bidding for the sales advisor role, and that's an entirely different way of looking at the same issue. It's quite exciting, actually. We really enjoy this case. It's all in the case of when you're a sales advisor, you've got to manage expectations for a seller. And we talk about the art and science of valuation for exit. I've got to share this with you. There is no correct answer for the value of a company when you're selling it. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to do DCF, a discounted cash flow, and I'm going to look at all the calculations in my textbooks, and I can tell you exactly what it's worth. This doesn't work. This world is not like that. And DCF doesn't work for small businesses that aren't generating net positive cash anyway. You've got to find new ways of valuing businesses. I'm worked in the SaaS is, by the way, the most exciting area in the world at the moment. And the biggest SaaS business is, of course, Salesforce.com. Some of you may have heard of Salesforce.com. It's a $100 billion business. It's reckoned to become the first $1 trillion SaaS business. We'll see. It has that capacity. $1 trillion SaaS business is quite a big deal. These businesses basically sell their services on monthly or annual contracts. You don't have this upfront huge fee like you used to get in the old days. Now it's a whole new ball game. The buyers have got much more savvy, and there's lots of new startups that build products which people want to buy. A typical one is Intuit, like QuickBooks, for example, or or Xero. Some of you may use Xero in your accounting systems. That's a classic example of a SaaS business. Great business. Next one is this is actually one of our lecturers, a guy called Prof. Falkman. Prof. Falkman was a great character. He had his own private equity house, and this is one of his particular cases that he was involved. In fact, he bought and sold it. So we know exactly what happened. So we build the investment hypothesis. Why should I buy this and why not? Investment hypothesis is probably the most important thing we talk about. Because it's a great way of analyzing information which is incomplete and sometimes ambiguous. And what we try and do is build a case based upon inadequate information to find out what something's worth, whether it's worth buying or not, whether it's worth investigating or not. And so we don't waste time looking at things that ain't going to work. We also talked about the structure of a deal. The financial structuring of a deal is critical as to whether it works or not. And we talk a lot about the use of leverage, when it's appropriate, when it isn't, and what it does for the outcome. And you're going to be very surprised to learn what leverage can do. Very surprised. This is the case. It's redacted the name of the company. It's actually a friend of mine who used to work with me some years ago. He's got involved in the program now. And this is a case he was involved in personally. And we had to change the name. But it's a real case. And it was all about a disaster that became a triumph. And it's also about how PE companies sell businesses, the process by which they sell businesses. It's also, we look back on when the company bought it. It was a mistake, by the way. And this was one of these things that nearly went very wrong. And we identify why it went wrong. And it's very clear when we've done the case, it's exactly all the mistakes that were made. And it's really quite instructive to learn from someone else's mistakes. Oh, and by the way, it's a lot cheaper. We now talk about a company called Pets at Home. Fortunately, the founder is a great friend of one of our colleagues, Jan Gregory, who worked with him on charities. And Anthony Preston is the original owner of Pets at Home. And he gave us the story from start to finish, from literally a gleam in his eye, and then round the kitchen table with his family, agreeing to invest in this crazy idea he had, and taking him from there to an IPO on a major stock exchange, and become I think it's about a £2 billion company now. And we take it through all the stages of the journey, and we also share the returns at each stage, which Anthony very kindly shared with us, which you never get to see. None of this information is ever made available. The stuff that Bullhound give us, you never get to see. And what we learn from PAC, you never get to see. And the Pets at Home case gives you information which you're never going to get anywhere else. And this is because we go to the horse's mouth and we talk to our friends, and we literally get information because of relationships, and we share that with you. And that's what you're paying for. When you come on an MBA program, it just can't be any old ordinary MBA, You only do it once. If you're going to do it, get a good one. Now, if you're interested in just in the financial markets, and if you want to work in London or New York, well, there's probably one kind of business school you want to go to. We can help you, but we're probably not the best for that. I'll probably get shot for saying that, but never mind, we're not. If, however, you want to work in business, or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you are an entrepreneur, and you want to find ways to improve your business and improve the value of it, we're for you. We're the boys. We're the place you should come to. What is interesting about the PAC case, it works through from a VC to a PE to an IPO, and we give you all the information. This is we use this a lot. This is the company life cycle. This green line here is from startup to growth to maturity. Now, every company in the world that ever was follows this same curve. Now, the gradients of the curve differs dramatically from different companies. For the moment, for example, Zoom, and no doubt you've heard of Zoom. At the moment, Zoom's like going vertical. It's unbelievable. It's almost like a vertical takeoff plane. And that's because the demand for its product is dramatically increased because of circumstances. It remains to be seen how much it holds on to after the event. I think a heck of a lot, because it's a great product. I'm not here to sell Zoom, by the way. It's a classic example of someone taking advantage of what is really a difficult situation, because they had the right product at the right time, and their marketing's good, and the product delivers. And there's lots of companies like this around the world. For example, Tesla. There's a great example. Goodness me, if ever there was a time for a company to be in the business of producing electric vehicles, at this moment in our world's life, with the so-called contested global warming, which we all know is real, then was there ever a better time to have an electric car? Probably not. And also it's got more than that. But I'm saying to you this, the company life cycle varies a bit depending on where you are and the circumstances you're working within. But sometimes that line literally goes vertical. Facebook was a good example of that as well. Very good example of that. Took off like a train. So the bottom line, the bottom actually shows you the expected return by an investor if they invest at the early stage, if they invest as you get in traction, and then if they invest as you're going towards maturity. The expected return goes down because first of all, you're starting from a bigger number, and secondly, the risk is reduced, so the price increases. And this subject's really all about valuing risk. There's a lot of stuff about risk in this program, and it's not that complicated. You don't have to be an actuarial genius. It's about how you analyze risk, and the investment hypothesis is all about risk management and mitigation. And the valuation that's placed upon a company has everything to do with the perception of risk. Everything. Forget about what the founders say. Forget about the entrepreneurs and the owners say. Irrelevant. What the investor's looking for is, are they credible people to invest in, which is important, but more importantly, is the product or idea going to stand the test of time? And they employ risk analysis on it to find out. And if it does, then they start working back from what they think they're going to get when they sell it to the starting price. It's nothing to do with what the entrepreneur wants. It's what they believe they can make. And this is what they're looking for. VCs are looking for 5 to 10 times minimum, the bottom end. Then you're looking 2 to 5 times as you get traction, and 1.5 to 2 times as you go to maturity. Because that 1.5 to 2 is going to be a big number, because the actual value of the business is great already. This is a bit more detail. I won't go into it in any great detail now, because I think I bore you stiff, and you've got better things to do than listen to me banging on about detail. But it's important to understand there are different metrics that drive investors at different levels. The bottom end is kind of small investments, angels, which angel investors are people with money who are prepared to risk it on new ventures. Venture capital houses typically play at the bottom end here, round about to the second arrow. And risk reduces over time because the company gains ability to forecast its future. And the red line is the founder equity. Now, typically, the founder will have less than 10% equity left at the end, because he's had to give it all away, because equity is all he's got, really, isn't it? See, in the way the banks invest on the back of assets, venture capital and private equity invest on the back of valuation of the business and their perception of the exit. Very different. It's an asset, but it's a different class of asset. You can see and touch the assets that banks operate in, which is why banks are really quite boring. You can see and touch what the assets they're prepared to invest in. It's like assets in the form of buildings, land, stock, receivables, that kind of stuff, which you can actually get your hands around. VC and PE are investing in an idea, more so VC than PE. And that's altogether more tricky and requires a very different mindset, I can tell you that. And you've got to be prepared to accept risk, otherwise you're in bother. Don't go into this world if you don't like risk, because you're going to end up looking like me. I'm only 25 years old, you know. This business has worn me out fast. I'm joking, of course. So that's the end of the formal bit of my webinar. I'm happy to take more questions. I have to say, I'm so sorry, but I have to run at 2 because I've got a board meeting actually with a company in Dubai, strangely enough, at 2 o'clock UK time. So I have to shoot, but I'm happy to talk for the next, I guess, 15 minutes. I can take questions if you've got them, and if you haven't, then no doubt William's got more important things to say than me. Over to you. Yes, William.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Malcolm. It was very clear and very informative, I'm sure. We've got a couple of questions here, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll just put 1 or 2 to you, if you don't mind, Malcolm. Specifically, with regards to the MBA, someone is asking if the MBA is a general MBA or specific MBA, and I think if you'd like to elaborate on whether, because obviously there are some people that are interested in, you know, an MBA in finance or an MBA in marketing or whatever that may be, maybe explaining or just maybe saying a couple of words about why ours is a global MBA, or maybe just giving a bit more information as to why we prefer it to be just a global?
I'm happy to do that. Our business school believes that, frankly, the MBA is about giving you the background to allow you to become a more efficient and effective operator in business or not-for-profit as well, and charities. And I've got lots of people come on my courses who are from the UN, on the UNHCR program or the food aid programs. It isn't all about making profits. It's about using assets efficiently. And there's nothing more scarce than capital, especially in charities, of course. So they've got to learn how to use it well. Our program gives you a broad spectrum approach to business, which is what an MBA is. Let's be honest, a good MBA is all about teaching you business administration. They're all the elements of that. So you're talking about accounting, you're talking about finance, you're talking about marketing, you're talking about business strategy. We do a fantastic business strategy. Kevin Jagiello, one of the guys who dreamt the whole strategic management program, he's a bit of a genius. We're very fortunate to have him. We've also got an absolutely brilliant lecturer called Patrick Manut, who talks about game theory and writes about it and really actually understands it. So you're going to get a broad spectrum education, which you can then apply. And if you want to learn more about a specific aspect, there are electives you can take within the program that focus on particular aspects. So yeah, you can fill in this global program within the elective program to learn things that you wouldn't necessarily get in as much detail in the core program. So it's a pretty good suite of information for you as an education program. It's kind of up to you what you want to focus on once you've done the core program. And hopefully that answers your question.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Malcolm. We've got another one here. They're asking, why is now a good time to consider an MBA?
Well, always is a good time to consider an MBA. It depends on your own development in your career. It's to a large extent, it's up to you, isn't it? I mean, there's no one size fits all. We get people from the age of about 28 up to about 50, and even beyond that, fair enough. Why not? Doing MBA programs, It's about where you are in your career and where you want to get to. So if you're in a position where you feel like you've hit a bit of a glass ceiling, but you've got the talent to get beyond that, but you don't know quite how to do it, then an MBA is a fantastic way of showing you how to get beyond that glass ceiling. Come and see me, I'll help you to do it. It's as simple as that. And my programs help you to do that. Without doubt, negotiation skills are a large part of getting past some artificial barrier. Also, some people do it because they're pursuit of knowledge. Some people like the pursuit of knowledge. And what's wrong with that? It's a fantastic objective in life. So there's no perfect time to do it. And by the way, don't look at the external environment, right? Don't look, oh, things are bad, COVID's here, I better not do it. Well, there's always a reason why not to do something, Oh, my wife's having a child. I can't do it now because I haven't got time. I'm getting promotion at work. I haven't got time. This is happening. Look, you've got to say to yourself, is it going to fit my future objectives? What does good look like for me? And if you know what good looks like for you, and this fits good, do it. And just accept that what is. I've learned one thing in what, 40 years, but yeah, 46 years in business I've been, since I did my degree. I did a degree in physics. Since I left doing my academic stuff, I moved into the sort of the world of hurly-burly world of business. I've discovered one thing: there's no perfect time for anything, but there is the right time for something, and you've got to seize the right time. Don't look for perfect because it ain't there. So that's, I guess, the answer. It doesn't. If it's not perfect answer, it's the best I've got to give you, I'm afraid. It's based on a lot of experience dealing with a lot of students over the years.
Thanks for that, Malcolm. Very wise words. And I'd like to follow up on that as well. I think we've got another question related to. Obviously, we have students with very diverse backgrounds. Some have very technical backgrounds as well, being engineers or in the healthcare sector as well. Would this be a good tool to kind of move into managerial positions? Would this be the right program for them?
Yes, I think that this is a great question, and it's often, I'm often asked it by people who come my electives. In fact, I've just finished an elective. I've done 18 days out of 22 electives, virtual electives. I've just finished 48 hours ago. So my brain's finally catching up. It's been a very fraught time, very exciting. And in the last elective, I taught someone negotiation skills, and it was actually a nursing director from a trust in the NHS in the UK, in the north of England. Lovely guy, lovely guy. And basically, he said, I've come on this course because I do a lot of negotiations internally, never mind externally, internally, between competing for the same resource. And I want to learn how to play my part in that to get the best value out of it. And he came away saying, I wish I'd done this earlier. So yes, I would say healthcare is a great place for this, for negotiation. By the way, most people in healthcare couldn't negotiate the weight of a paper bag. They haven't got a clue because they've never done it. So my dad always used to say to me, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So if you're the only one who knows anything about negotiation skills, you'll do great. So if you're in healthcare, take it, whatever you do. Engineers, now that's an interesting one. It's a function of what you want to do in your life. But engineers are, of course, by definition, detail-oriented, very numerate indeed. And a lot of what we do in preparation is based upon objective analysis. And engineers are good at that. I hasten to say not as good as physicists, which of course is the given, seeing as I'm a physicist, but still good. And if you want to grow in your career and you're in a technical part of the world, right, in technical aspects of the business, doesn't mean you don't negotiate. And it also, particularly if you're in technical, you need to do the Vcpe course because you're going to have to get people's backing for investment. And that's where Vcpe going to help you to actually construct the case, and then negotiation skills lets you sell the case. I'm doing a bit of selling here, of course, because I'm passionate about both courses. I happen to think they're very important, but I kind of guess you would think that anyway. I've got a vested interest because I wrote them both, I co-wrote them both, and I'm really excited about them. So hopefully, once again, that gives you some insight into why this might add value to you if you're in those particular sectors.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Malcolm. We've got actually an elective specific question here from Stephen again. Is the main purpose of the venture capital module to look at how to get VCP cash, or is it in addition to the business accounting and finance module that looks at the math process of valuing a company?
Well, it's a very different way of looking at the same thing. It's a kind of VCP is very practical in the sense that we show you what happens in the real world as opposed to what it says in the books. This is not to say the books are all wrong, because they're not, but there's a very different way of looking at it. And in the world we're living in today, you've got to be fast on your feet. And the stuff we teach you on our course isn't in books yet, because nobody's written about it. And we're actually at the front end of what's going on, because we're actually in this business. It's what we do for a living. So we actually know what's happening today. So in terms of VCP, it's not just about valuing. It's not just about getting cash if you're an entrepreneur and you want to get investment. It's about the business of looking at It's about the business of looking at ideas in an objective way, which allows you to assess the value of that idea in all sorts of ways. It doesn't need to be money. Is this a good idea? Can I make it work better? What are the problems associated with this? How can we implement it better? What do I need to think about that would be I can solve a particular problem? How can I mitigate that risk? That's what it's all about. That's the investment hypothesis. Sorry about that. Somebody's ringing me up, but don't worry about it. My wife will pick it up.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Malcolm. I'm just conscious of time as well. I know that we only have a couple of minutes left. I don't know if you'd like to share a couple of last words, parting words, maybe words of wisdom about the MBA, maybe, and just recapping on some of the stuff you've already mentioned.
Yeah, I think just a couple of generic comments about the MBA program per se, and the options that are open to you. We are very realistic at AMBS. We're not the only company that's offering you an MBA. We offer a very good one, but other people do as well. And let's not kid ourselves. There are more than one MBA program in the world that adds value to you as a possible, if you like, acquirer of this particularly wonderful objective. What do we offer that's different? Why would I think that we offer something a little bit different that might add a little bit more value? I guess it's because we're a bit more practical about things, and the people you're going to meet and people you're going to sort of be trained by have actually done it. And that has much more value than somebody just read about it in a book. Is it a good thing for everybody to do an MBA? No, it isn't. Look, if you aren't kind of bright, don't go there, because this is for clever people. And this is no disrespect to anybody. Look, I'm just being very, very open about this. I'm not here to just disrespect anybody or judge anybody. But you've asked a question, I'm going to give you a straight answer. If you aspire to do well, this course is for you. If you believe that you can learn more, this course is for you. And if you believe you've got more to offer, this course is for you. And if you want to apply it in a practical way that actually adds value to yourself and to other people around you, then I think we're about as good as it gets. And that's really all I can say. That's all I really think would add any value at all. Other than that, I've just been saying words for their own sake. That's all I've got to say.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Malcolm. That means a lot. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all these details with us. I'm sure that everyone here has been very much informed about everything with regards to, of course, the MBA, with the different electives that we offer as well on the MBA program. And I do hope that they are excited about pursuing their education at a higher level as well. So,
well, one thing would be remiss of me, William, if I didn't say one very important thing about the MBA program in the Middle East, and I really would be remiss. Please, sorry about this, William. I've worked all over the world. I work and I teach all over the world. And I have to say, you're very fortunate in the Middle East to have a really fantastic team. I mean, I love the team in the Middle East. I've worked with them. They're really great fun to work with. They're really motivated people. Randa at the top leads by example. She's a very well known in the region. Is extremely capable and fantastic lady, very powerful lady. I wouldn't like to disagree with Randa. In fact, I don't like negotiating with Randa. God, she beats me. But the fact of the matter is, sorry, I'm laughing because it's true. In the Middle East, we've got a great program and we've got a great team. So if you are in the Middle East, you're looking to join the MBA program, this is probably as good as you're going to get in support. You can disagree with me if you like. I'm just talking from experience. So that's really my final comment, William. I had to say that because I really believe it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Malcolm. Really appreciate your kind words. So yes, to finish off, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who would like to learn more about the MBA program, you can always go to our website, www.manchester.ac.ae. All the details about the MBA program are there. If you'd like to inquire about the program, you can do so. You can submit a callback request and one of our program counselors will get in touch with you to discuss about your ambition and your aspirations as well with regards to the MBA. And with that being said, for students and who are on the program currently, if you'd like to learn more about some of these electives as well, or to ask a couple of questions, I'm sure that you can get in touch with your student advisors and with some of the faculty as well that are at your disposal, of course. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for this session titled Learning by Doing is Our Mantra, and this is what our MBA is all about, by Malcolm Smith. Thank you very much, Malcolm, for your presence as well. We really do appreciate it, and thank you all for tuning in this afternoon. Please do stay in touch with the university. We do have events that run very often, so keep in touch and check out our events page on the website as well for more information. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very good evening and a very good weekend in the Middle East as well. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.